Welcome back to the Untriggered Parenting Podcast with me, Paula S. Lawrence, the space where we drop the guilt, ditch the pressure, work on becoming more untriggered in order for us to parent from a place of peace, not perfection. So this week's episode is for every parent who has ever laid awake at night wondering, did I mess that up? Should I have said that thing differently? Am I doing this all wrong? Yep, we are talking about overthinking in your parenting, something I'm super duper guilty of, and I'm sure many of us are too. We love our kids so much and we really want to get this right, but sometimes that desire turns into that mental hamster wheel, replaying conversations, obsessing over every single decision and Googling your way into paralysis. I've definitely been there. But here's the truth. Overthinking doesn't make you a better parent. It just makes you a more anxious one. So in today's episode, we're going to break down why we overthink, how it shows up, and most importantly, what to do instead. If you're ready to step out of your head and into your heart, then let's dive in. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about what overthinking actually looks like as a parent. So you've probably had moments where you've replayed a conversation with your child 200 times in your head. Or maybe you've researched 3 different parenting styles, philosophies, and then just decided to give your kid a timeout instead. That's mentally exhausting and it's not very intentional. And it's not parenting from a place of peace or purpose. Overthinking sounds like, was I too harsh? Was I too soft? What would a good parent do here? What would so-and-so do here? What would your favorite parenting expert tell you to say in this situation? And guess what? When we live in our heads like that, we actually miss what's happening right in front of us. We're not present. And in front of us is just a child who wants to be seen, heard and loved, but we're too preoccupied in our mind playing out all these different scenarios. We're not actually being present. So where does this overthinking actually come from? To be honest, I think a lot of it is rooted in fear. That fear of messing up, fear of being judged as a bad parent, being looked at as incapable, not knowing what you're doing. That fear of repeating mistakes from our own childhoods that we swore that we wouldn't repeat. And let's not forget, we're parenting in the age of information overload. Every single time you're on social media, there's another expert telling you the right way to parent. But I just want you to remember this. You are the expert on your child. And algorithms don't know your child, not as well as you do. And those influencers don't live in your home. You do. The next thing I wanted to discuss was the fact that there are some parenting myths that can actually fuel overthinking, that keep parents stuck in self-doubt and anxiety. So I'm just going to pick 5, which I think are the most common ones. The first one is, good parents always know the right thing to do. Incorrect. Nobody has all the answers. Parenting is full of trial and error and learning as you go. And even if you do make a mistake, that doesn't disqualify you. It's just an opportunity to teach you and your child and give you a chance to grow together. The second one is, if I mess up, I'll ruin my child. Definitely incorrect. The truth is, kids don't need perfect parents. They need present, emotionally available ones. That's why it's so important to work on repairing after an episode of conflict or a mistake has occurred, because that's actually more powerful than never making mistakes at all. The third one is believing that you need to follow expert advice to be a successful parent. And, of course, guidance helps you. Coaches, counselors, they're all there to help you. But never forget that you are the expert on your child, and over-relying on outside opinions can actually disconnect you from your intuition and your child's unique needs. The next one is, if I'm struggling, I must be doing it wrong. Absolutely not. Struggle is part of parenting. Even for the most mindful, calmest, informed and loving parents, there are definitely going to be periods of struggle. That's just what it is. It doesn't mean you're a failure. It means you're human and you're doing brave, meaningful work. And the final one is that there is only one right way to parent. That's incorrect. There are many healthy ways to raise children, and what works for one family or a child might not work for yours or another. So again, trusting your own rhythm and your own intuition is part of empowered parenting. So how do we move from overthinking to trusting ourselves as parents? So I just wanted to go over a few things I think may be able to help you and myself as well. So the first one is anchoring into what your values are. Does this decision reflect who I want to be as a parent? Does it reflect our values that is present in our home that you want to pass on to your children? If it does, then it's the right decision. The second one is choosing connection over perfection. Trying to focus less on getting it quite right, because quite honestly, it's too difficult. It can be a sort of out of reach goal, and more staying emotionally available. Not being upset if you don't have the answer in that moment, but work on just keeping that connection with your child instead. And hopefully the resolution will come out within that connection. The next one is using a grounding question. So asking yourself, is this about fear or love? Is this more to do with myself or the situation at hand? Is it likely that I'm blowing this out of proportion because I'm scared of something? Or is the actual situation at hand, I'm maybe not looking at it accurately? Now, these are questions to ask yourself to bring yourself back into the present moment. And when you are present, you're more likely to have clarity, and then you can solve the problem at hand instead of catastrophizing what could be instead. The next one is related to the previous one, is to create a pause practice. It could be anything that works for you. Something simple as taking 5 slow breaths before reacting, before responding. Taking a moment away to maybe write down your thoughts instead of just spiraling in the moment. Give yourself time. Sometimes we think that everything is urgent and needs to be done straight away. It's okay to take a moment to figure out what is my next right move. And then the final one is setting limits on input. And what that means is if you're one of those that loves to research and you Google and you've got your books and you've got your articles, then give yourself a 10-minute limit. Look over what you need to look at, read over the article, listen to your favorite parenting experts, see what they say, and then make the decision and then move on. Don't make the decision and then stress about whether that was the right decision or not. You have to be secure in the decision that you make, even if it's incorrect, but you need to learn how to make a decision. And, the more we practice listening to our intuition, slowing down, having faith that answer is going to come, the stronger your intuition comes and the more you're going to be able to parent from a place of peace and also clarity. So next, I wanted to give you 5 grounding phrases that you can say to yourself when you feel yourself starting to spiral, starting to overthink. The first one is, I don't have to get it perfect. I just need to be present. This is just to remind yourself that connection matters more than flawless parenting. The next one is, I'm allowed to pause before I react. Creating that space for yourself to breathe and reset before spiraling into anxiety and guilt. Number 3 is, this is just a moment and it's not a measure of my worth. The next one is, this is just a moment, not a measure of my worth. This just helps you put the situation into perspective, especially when you are somebody that over catastrophizes. One moment doesn't define you or your child or your dynamic. The next one is, my child doesn't need a perfect parent, they need a real one. So that just releases all the pressure to perform and invites you to sort of live authentically, which is really what your child needs from you. And the last one is, I can trust myself to figure this out one step at a time. Absolutely trust yourself. Work on building that self-trust. Give yourself the time and the space to quiet the noise of comparison and doubt, and sort of lean into your intuition, because it's there for a reason. So I would love for you to take just a few moments to just stop and reflect on one area where you have been overthinking lately. Maybe it's one reoccurring issue that's happening with your child and you just don't know how to solve it, but it's something that keeps coming up over and over again. And what might it look like to choose trust instead? So that's the end of today's episode. And if this episode spoke to you, I would love you to do me a favor and share it with a friend who might need to hear it too. And if you're ready to go deeper into untriggered parenting, be sure to check out free resources on my website, accelerateempowerment.com. You're always welcome to drop me an email, paula@accelerateempowerment.com. And along with this week's episode, I have written an episode guide, which you can download. I'll leave it in the notes. It'll also be available on my Instagram and also on the website. But just check in the notes and you'll be able to download it from there. And that just gives you a little bit of an overview about what we've discussed today, and just reminding you to be present, to be intentional, because you've got this. And until next time, take a deep breath, trust yourself, and remember, connection over perfection always. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.